atomic fireball. Maybe not.
All right, well, this was fun.
It's just stuck up there with Velcro.
Oh, okay.
It can be
Good, so I don't have to worry
removed
about
when we
the
don't
finish
finish.
just getting poured on.
It must be pretty light.
Oh, yeah.
Northern Vermont.
Yeah.
Good.
Good morning. A reminder that there will be no classes tomorrow or Monday. Enjoy the short break and get some rest. All students, faculty, and staff, don't forget to order your lunch today for next week. Please do so by clicking on the link on your advisory page in Canvas. Due to the shortened week and no advisory yesterday, the link will be open until 3 p.m. today. You must submit your order by the end of the day today for next week's lunch order. The following colleges will be hosting virtual visits today: Johnson and Wales, Providence at 3 p.m., Regis College at 3:30 p.m., Wentworth Institute of Technology at 4 p.m., Hofstra University at 4:30 p.m., and Long Island University Post at 5 p.m. The following colleges will be hosting virtual visits tomorrow, Friday, October 16th. University of Rhode Island at 3 p.m., Hampshire College at 3:30 p.m., University of Maine at Farmington at 4 p.m., Hobart William Smith Colleges at 4:30 p.m., and University of Colorado Boulder at 5 p.m. And on Monday, October 19th, Northern Vermont University Linden at 3 p.m., University of Massachusetts Boston at 3:30 p.m., McDaniel College at 4 p.m., and University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign at 4:30 p.m. Attention class of 2024, Mr. Raisonet will be assembling a class council meeting for the class of 2024 tomorrow, Friday, October 16th at 7 a.m. If you are interested in a student leadership or have a desire to help influence your class's future, please email Mr. Raisonet at mraisonet@stjacademy.org for the Zoom link. No prior leadership experience is required. Happy birthday today to Henry Heilman, Alice Lee, Aidan Brody, and Maren Geese. Happy birthday tomorrow to Eric Broom, Sage Coons, Owen McClure, and Mr. Lejean. And over the week to Hannah Bacon, Jane Goodrich, Maya Bukowski, Catherine Nadeau, and Nathan Martin. Happy birthday. On Thursday, varsity and JV football at Enosburg at 4. Please release the students at 1:30. And varsity football at Oxbow at 4. On Friday, we have varsity football at Spalding at 7 and varsity volleyball versus Randolph at 4. On Saturday, we have girls and boys cross country at Craftsbury and VAC at 10 and varsity and JV field hockey versus U32, 11 and 12:15. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. That was done like a pro. Good morning, everyone. Happy online day. I have some late-breaking announcements. Hang on. Boys JVB soccer beat Hazen 5-0, improving their record to 2-0. Varsity field hockey beat Harwood 1-0, but lost to Linden Institute 4-3 in overtime. JV field hockey beat Linden Institute 4-0. Varsity football lost to Linden Institute 35-34 in overtime. A special happy birthday to Ms. Smith in the alumni office from your friends in Strasco. So I know that we're all eager to get to this break, to restore some of the energy we started the school year with, to sleep in and loaf around and take walks and watch movies and make food, and of course to read for pleasure. I hope that some of you who've been having a hard time for whatever reason, or who've felt disengaged from school, or who have done things that you regret in the last couple of months, I hope that you're able to take some time and reflect on what went wrong and what you might do differently if you had to do again. I hope that those of you who've been very proud of your accomplishments and have been loving your classes and loving sports and excited about things like theater and robotics starting up, I hope you take a moment to relish those good feelings. And finally, I hope that everyone takes a minute to think about what I'm about to share. As much as I'd love to send you off to your break without a care, the fact is that we're heavy with cares right now. In a moment, Mr. Beck is going to talk with you about the importance of voting, how one vote can make a difference between one person or another being empowered to represent you in your government. If you're paying attention to what's happening in the world, and I sincerely hope that you are, you'll know that this fact, that our ability to be heard or represented rests on such a fragile thing, is, for many Americans, as distressing as the virus. I'm going to be honest with you. I am deeply concerned for us all. I'm deeply concerned that the values that I have long considered absolute and non-negotiable, the things that used not just to be able to say, but would be required to say as teachers of young people, are now somehow at issue. Things like we abhor prejudice and racism and sexism. Things like we believe in equal treatment for all. I've been asking all of us to spend more time asking questions than declaring, to engage in Socratic dialogue and interrogate assumptions, and be careful of alienating each other in classes by expressing our personal political beliefs or offering partisan views. Because we want our classrooms to be safe spaces for students to engage in culturally and intellectually critical conversations about everything, including racism and justice and civil and human rights, without feeling that we are pushing any one point of view. I think this is right. I think St. Johnsbury Academy as a school does not take political stands on issues of the day, or back a political candidate, or support one party or another. I feel strongly that we should not do this. That's why the only flag we fly is the American flag, and why we ask you not to wear flags and symbols on your clothes or on your masks. But I don't want anyone in this community to think that this means we don't stand for anything, because we certainly do. We stand for and will continue to teach, as I believe the Academy always has, those values that do not belong exclusively to one political party or another, that are not matters of ideology, but of ethics, and not matters of party affiliation, but basic respect for our humanity. There's a difference between indoctrination, which is the insistence on uncritical acceptance of certain beliefs, and teaching, which is the insistence on critical inquiry and questioning. We want you to learn that there are things that aren't arguable by reasonable people, that the equality and right to equal treatment of people of all races, religions, genders, gender identities, nationalities, and beliefs is not an issue to be debated, but a self-evident truth to be cherished. We want you to be very clear that when we say we want to create a safe space at this school for civil discourse, we don't mean that there is safe space for hatred or bigotry or homophobia or misogyny or ignorance or violence. There is no safe space here for bullying or intimidation or for reinscription of pain and harmful prejudice. Please let this be part of what you think about this weekend. We are all in the process of becoming who we are. And while we often delight and amaze each other, we also often make mistakes and hurt each other, or try on postures, or take actions that make us feel powerful at the expense of others. We're here to help you find your way out of those mistakes, to avoid hurting others without meaning to, and to help you understand how to be good people in the world, curious about and compassionate toward the people around you, no matter who you're voting for or who we're voting for. And I certainly hope you are voting, if you can. I just recently registered to vote in Vermont, and I'm very excited to do it. And speaking of voting, I would like to welcome Mr. Beck, the third in our Social Studies speaker series, to the podium. Have a wonderful break, everyone, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you, Dr. Howe. Good morning. This is all new for me. There's no audience here except for a handful of people, and I have not seen this beautiful podium till just right now. It is amazing. As you may have heard, the United States will have a general election in just 19 days on November 3rd. Millions have already cast their ballots. I'd like to take this opportunity to speak with you about the importance of voting. Some of you will be able to vote in Vermont on November 3rd. Of those, all were able to vote in the August primaries because of a recent amendment to the Vermont Constitution that occurred because of a capstone project by a St. Johnsbury Academy senior, Catherine Lavager. More of you will become eligible to vote in town elections in March, and by the time 2022 arrives, over half of this student body will be eligible voters. Much of the focus right now, understandably, is on the upcoming presidential election. With over 150 million votes expected to be cast, some start to question the importance of their one vote and their role as a voter. Of course, the popular vote does not determine presidential elections in the United States. The Electoral College does, and as Mr. Mantius pointed out on Monday, those can end up in a tie. Many question how one vote can really change an election. The statistical truth is that the most likely margin of victory in any election is a tie or one vote, depending on whether an even or odd number of people vote in that election. Let me just say that one more time so everybody can process. The statistical truth is that the most likely margin of victory in any election is a tie or one vote, depending on whether an even or odd number of people vote in that election. This outcome is even more likely in elections where fewer people vote. Think Vermont, where voter lists are divided up by town, and many towns have fewer than 1,000 voters. A tie or one vote margin becomes very likely. Currently, I'm a member of the Vermont House of Representatives and have been since 2015. In my first term, I served on the Education Committee with Representative Sarah Buxton from Tunbridge. Sarah won her seat in 2010 by one vote, literally. In 2016, landslide, as Sarah was affectionately known, lost her seat by one vote to the same person. Sarah and her opponent had different perspectives, and both were involved in very difficult one-vote legislative bills that affect Vermonters today. The one vote in that district that secured these victories or defeats was not inconsequential. In my third term, I served with Sam Young on Ways and Means Committee. Sam's from the Northeast Kingdom. Sam was elected in 2010 by one vote on election night, and after a recount, the margin exploded to 3. Tax policy in this state would look very different if it weren't for Sam's presence in the State House since 2010. Again, in that district, 3 voters made the difference in how policies came to be in Vermont. Candidates do get elected by one vote and then enact or defeat policy by one vote that affects the entire state. Do you see the connection? Your freedoms, liberties, protections, government services, taxes, and more are directly related to very close elections where one vote often does make a significant difference. But your responsibility as a voter does not end with simply casting a vote. Make the effort to be an informed voter. Too many voters make their choice because of name recognition, party affiliation, or ballot placement. Some just guess randomly. It pains me when people say, vote red or vote blue, or I vote for who I know. The truth is that it is very easy to be an informed voter in Vermont. We are small enough where candidates can be easily reached. Our elected officials live in our communities, and they lead pretty normal, ordinary lifestyles. They are accessible. Ask them what their positions on the issues are, and research their voting records. Do they have a history of service and commitment to the community? Do your homework and make sure that you are voting for the person that most closely reflects your values, not the one that spends the most money campaigning or has a catchy slogan or a flashy sign. And finally, it is really easy to vote in Vermont. Our towns are small, and so are our voting districts. We are not an urban center where people literally will wait all day in miles-long lines to cast their vote. In Vermont, you can vote 6 weeks early, in person or through the mail. If you do wait until voting day, there are no lines, and you'll almost certainly be greeted by a familiar face at your local polling station. Voting matters, If you will be 18 on November 3rd, go to your town clerk and get registered. You can vote on the same day or wait until voting day. If you won't be 18 by November 3rd, please encourage your family and friends that are eligible voters to vote. Thank you.